Live from Dancing Zorbas, this is Derailed Trains of Thought. Well, welcome to 138 of Derailed Trains of Thoughts, your premier podcast on storytelling.
For the creator and the consumer.
My name is Timothy Deal.
My name is Nick Hayden.
And we are coming to you tonight from a very lively restaurant. This is the second week in a row, or second podcast in a row, we've come from a restaurant.
Oh, yeah. That's weird.
It is weird.
It's feeding us well, I guess.
It is. That's true, as the kids say nowadays. Janelle, I'm sure, would be jealous that she wasn't here. She didn't come along with us this time. Although I just happened to run into someone at the next table over here. This is my baby sister, Danielle. Hi, Danielle.
Oh, hi, Timothy. Wow, what are the odds?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Our podcast just casts us to all these really interesting places, but every now and then we run into someone. So how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I just wanted to get some more Mediterranean food. Just got back from Lebanon, so this is a great place.
Nice. For those of you who don't know, yes, Danielle is my baby sister. We are exactly 12 years apart. And our podcast actually owes you a thanks, Danielle. I was remembering today that you gave me our current microphones for my birthday a couple years ago.
Oh, wow. Those are the microphones? Cool.
Yeah. Restaurants look at us kind of weird when we come in with microphones and laptops.
Push all the plates out of the way and take off all the, just set up.
Yeah.
Shop. Yeah.
Yeah. And the podcast gives us this like quiet bubble to record in, so you can't hear any other restaurant noise.
There's some music and dancing going on. So
yeah. Sorry you folks are missing it. But anyway, so Danielle, what are you up to these days?
Wow, what am I up to? Teaching and doing taxes is what it feels like.
Because you're a professor of economics or something at Grace College?
Professor of accounting, so I'm teaching a tax class.
Accounting, yes, that's more accurate.
It's the right time for teaching tax classes, right?
Sure is.
So you probably got your students hard at work and volunteering to do other people's taxes, I guess.
Yep.
Well, see, that all the high schoolers are always like, we had to learn algebra too, but we never learned how to do our taxes. Well, go to Grace and you can.
I guess so. I guess that makes you perfect for today's discussion about
money and no.
No, not really. We'll see if it fits or not. Probably. Well, it fits in a certain way. But let's move on into story school. It is fitting that you're here, Danielle, because today we're going to be talking about romantic comedies. This has been on our potential topic list for a long time.
Like 8 years? Or I don't know.
Something. I don't really know. It's one of those topics that's been there a long time because we knew we would need to have someone on here who really, let's just say a lady, who knows romantic comedies better than a couple of guys ever would. So you happen to be a girl, correct? My sister, Danielle? Hopefully this is not a sexist thing, but I think it's accurate. I mean,
I think traditionally, yeah, I enjoy my romantic comedies, but I don't have a good, a lot of them are like, I watch them, I enjoy them, then I forget about them. Like, I don't think about them. I don't go out purposely finding them.
You don't go quoting them to all your...
Not normally.
To all
you
no.
Grow up on them, hours and hours and hours of movies and shows.
Not this genre, I guess. Okay, but tell us, Danielle, so from your perspective, why do you think women enjoy romantic comedies so much, or rom-coms? I mean, they tend to get lumped together in the category known as chick flicks. Although I guess technically the genre could extend to books and TV shows and such. But anyway, what do you think?
Well, I think rom-coms tell really good stories that have a lot of emotional attachment to them as well, emotional development. So not only do you get like a good story and a good conflict, you have this element that feels very nurturing, and at the same time it's fun, you're laughing, you're amused at it. A lot of rom-coms are very family-oriented, like they usually follow a family in some way, and I think girls just gravitate toward that more.
I think that makes sense because, say like in real life, the jobs men go towards tend to be very technical or task oriented, and when, again, stereotypically, women tend to go towards more relational jobs. And so I think, that the rom-coms would fit in that same sort of dichotomy. Now, again, these are wide-ranging stereotypes, but just, percentage-wise.
Sure, yeah. Like there certainly are some rom-coms that I would, I had 4 sisters, and so it was just inevitable that I would wind up watching some of these. But it's not the sort of genre I tended to gravitate towards. But I think you said a good point, Danielle, that I was thinking about this, that rom-coms are fun. They're usually lighter than like a serious romantic drama per se.
Yeah. I think that's one way to get a whole family to enjoy them is that, like the girls may have wanted to watch a full-blown romance, and the only way to get the guys in the family to watch it would be the humor involved in a rom-com.
Because the full dramatic stuff is meaningful and such, but like sometimes the guys just want an escape, and honestly, sometimes the girls just want an escape. But there's a little bit more broader appeal there.
Well, it seems like, at least from my experience, the humor tends to be very relatable because everyone's been in awkward situations at some point where they're like, "Why did I say or not say such and such a thing?" or "Why am I so weird?" or whatever the particular quirk of the characters is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now that we've kind of identified some big picture, why do we enjoy some of this stuff? Let's maybe talk a little bit more about specifics. What do you both think are some key parts of the genre?
Ooh. Well, are we talking like typical American rom-coms, or are we like just romance in general?
Let's start with the American rom-com, and then we can go more broad after that.
Okay. American rom-com would be the couple usually doesn't like each other at first. There's some tension, but they're somehow drawn together, whether through circumstances or not, and they kind of like learn to like each other somehow, and then the spark happens, and they move on. But then, as Nick was saying, there's always these ridiculous moments, whether that's because of family or because of their own awkwardness through the story.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I'm reminded of a quote the film critic Roger Ebert said that, I'll paraphrase a little bit, but he said basically, in the history of movies, you can never have a man and a woman start the movie at odds with each other, and the audience will not be satisfied until they are totally and completely together in love with each other, unless perhaps the movie is about Adolf Hitler and Eleanor Roosevelt.
Actually, that quote's interesting because it shows that we, going to movies, we want reconciliation. We want this bridging the gap between the men and the women.
Yeah.
And because I think there's a lot of tension just in the world in general between, the battle of the sexes, the thing that exists. And we simultaneously know that, like, we're supposed to get along.
Yeah. I mean, from very early on, it's always boys against girls in the schoolyard games and sports and stuff. And we continue that rivalry for a long time. But yeah, at the same time, there's this irresistible draw between men and women. It is interesting to me, though, that description you gave, Danielle, you could also apply that to romantic comedic situations in action movies. Something older, like, say, Romancing the Stone. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
Crocodile Dundee is not really action. That's probably more comedy.
That'd be a perfect rom-com, though.
Yeah, there's definitely aspects of it in there. But I don't know, it's just interesting, like you can kind of use that formula, I think, and supplant it in a couple different other genres. I mean, you can say there's some romantic comedy shenanigans even in like the Iron Man movies with Tony and Pepper.
Well, and it's interesting that sort of basic setup can be very old too. I mean, a couple years ago I taught Much Ado About Nothing, and Beatrice and Benedict is basically, they hate each other's guts and they'll never get married. And at the end they're like, well, we might as well get married. And it's the best part of the play. I mean, like, I had the 8th graders who, it's a weird grade to teach like this thing. They just thought it was ridiculous and over top and hilarious.
Did you just read the play or did you watch?
No, we had to watch it to be the Emma Thompson and what's his name?
Oh, Kenneth Branagh?
Yeah, it's just wonderful.
Yeah, great cinematography in that movie too, by the way. I remember watching the beginning and the ending of that in a film class at some point. Really nice long shot at the end of the movie. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
And I was thinking actually of that play because I was thinking what makes a movie or a story different, like a rom-com versus a romantic drama. And I think it comes down to Shakespeare's point of like, if it's a tragedy, someone dies. And if it's a comedy, someone gets married in the end. Because it seems like we can never have something in between. It's either like together and loving each other or they're dead.
The middle is unsatisfying. You're like, so they kind of like each other? What's the good of that?
Yeah, that's a good point. Every now and then you see one where they're trying to be, okay, we won't be quite so stereotypical, we'll really wrestle with this, but they still wind up together at the end. I'm thinking of When Harry Met Sally, which I don't know if you've ever seen, Danielle. I didn't think so. But it's a whole question about like, can men and women actually just be friends without, well, in that movie, does the sex get in the way? From a Christian perspective, sex wouldn't really even be a factor. But there is that like, how well can men and women be friends without like falling in love, which in this story, the two characters wind up falling in love because it wouldn't be a complete romantic comedy without that.
Right. Yeah.
We've been trying to focus on just romantic comedies versus romantic comedy action or romantic comedy mystery. And can you do those? Do you think there's something unique to the single romantic comedy, or is it just that they spend all their time on that part as opposed to adding in other elements? Or is there something extra in a strictly romantic comedy?
I don't see it so much in movies, but like in books, you never see like, I can't say that there's like a book that's just a romantic comedy. It's like usually some sort of combination of all of them. But I can think of like American movies that are strictly romantic comedy because they don't really they're very fluffy.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So in order to make it work, it seems like you have to just add a lot of fluff and just whatever, because while it's why we want to maybe go to it, it's not, you have to hang it on something else a lot of times. Mm-hmm. Give us an example of maybe a novel that adds extra stuff.
Ooh. I can only think of it kind of in the reverse way. Whereas, like, to me, I can't have a good story without the romantic element to it, because then it doesn't work. So, like, in Lord of the Rings, I like zero in on the romantic relationship, even though it's like a tiny, minuscule part of the story.
Interesting. So that's what you're looking for, even in a genre like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's see. Howl's Moving Castle, the book, is a very lighthearted comedy. I mean, it's set in a fantasy world, but there's other elements going on besides just the romance. That's almost an afterthought.
What would you call something like a Jane Austen book where, like, Pride and Prejudice strikes me as a book and a story that, from what I understand, has a lot of humor in it, but feels a little different from, at least as a complete story, from a rom-com movie. Is there because there's more family drama or just more drama stuff in general?
Yeah, I'd say when you read Pride and Prejudice, there's more humor than when you watch it.
I would agree with that, having read it, yeah.
Yeah, just some of the witty writing, you see her being sarcastic a little bit more. Emma is another Jane Austen where that might be the most, other people might disagree with me, but that seems to be the most rom-com because there's not a whole lot going on in Emma. It's just a lot of gossip, little family squabbles here and there that's humorous.
Mm-hmm. Another older story that I feel fits into this is a play originally, but The Importance of Being Earnest. Yeah. That is an old school rom-com because it's a completely ridiculous story. Mm-hmm. What's different about that from like the American rom-coms is I feel like that one, well, the women have a driving force because they have that business of like where they're trying to punish the two men, but the men are the ones that are like causing shenanigans with their false identities and things like that. Here's a question, Danielle, with rom-coms and the movie version of this. It seems to me like a feature that a lot of them have is kind of the quirky female protagonist. Your Sandra Bullock, your Meg Ryan. I don't know if quirky is the right word or not. Sometimes they're more eccentric than that, but they're either alone or they have some particular thing that they're searching for. They're in some ways the driving focus, and then the guy kind of gets swept along for the ride. At least that's one version of it. Mm-hmm. But it seems to me like the importance of being earnest might be like the counter to that, Although again, but the women in that one also have their own things going on.
No, I see what you mean. Like that story that is kind of like starts with the men, and then the women are kind of introduced later as the interest. Whereas other movies usually start with the girl and her, like, she's living this great life, but there's a part of her that's not yet complete, and that's when the guy enters, or they hate each other, and then there's this conflict and resolution kind of thing. But I wonder if that's very with the times, though. Like, is that just kind of coming from the feminist movement, and that's kind of a drive from there? So I'm trying to think of some rom-coms that, like, Cary Grant would be in, or some of our favorite John Wayne movies, which has Katharine Hepburn, is it?
Well,
or is it the other one I'm thinking? The other redhead I'm thinking.
Oh wait, now I'm double checking myself. When you're talking about John Wayne comedy, are you thinking of McClintock?
Yes.
Oh, Maureen O'Hara.
Yeah.
That's the one who that. Although McClintock is kind of a broad Western comedy in general. I mean,
yes, but they also co-star in The Quiet Man, which would be considered a rom-com.
Oh, really? You think so? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of humorous parts to that, and it's about romance. Maybe it sides more on the drama side, but it's definitely funny.
Okay. So but that is an interesting thing to compare the Cary Grant's rom-com to the 90s rom-com, which are, I guess, again, the Sandra Bullock, Meg Ryan stuff that I was talking about earlier. So let's see. I'm trying to think what the Cary Grant rom-coms would be. Would you consider Bringing Up Baby one of those? I mean, that's a pretty zany kind of story. Or Arsenic and Old Lace? I don't know. That was really romantic. That's just broad comedy.
Father Goose would be an ultimate rom-com.
Give us a story about that. That one may not be as familiar to as many listeners.
Yeah, that one's different because Cary Grant is a bum. He's not suave. He's actually a drunk bum in the Pacific Ocean during the World War II, and he has to take care of the school teacher and her class of international students. And it's just through a series of ridiculous events that they end up falling in love on this.
With one of the teachers, or
with the teacher, because they're stranded on an island.
Oh, okay. I've probably seen it, but not a very long time ago. I'm a little bit more familiar with Operation Petticoat.
Yep, that's another one. Yeah, just different roles for the women and the whole story. Not as focused about like on career or anything like that. Just kind of just on the setting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that one is it's more broad comedy because it takes it worth romance on the side. I would say, yeah, but it strikes me that some of these are kind of. We talked earlier about like family sorts of situations, but I mean, there's some similarities with some of these movies with like sitcoms. I've been thinking of I Love Lucy a lot in this conversation because when we were talking about who directs the conflict in I Love Lucy, a lot of times it's Lucy who's doing something ridiculous to get famous or something. But every now and then you have this episode where the men of the husbands are off doing, Fred and Ricky are trying to prove something to the wives, and the wives are trying to prove something to the husbands. And at the end, they all reconcile and have a good laugh and over each other's foibles.
I guess what I've been thinking, just listening to all this, and again, you guys is at least the breadth of time periods of rom-coms way broader than mine is. That was just I hit the 90s ones. That's about outside of a few old musicals.
Those are the ones you grew up with when you had sisters in the house.
Exactly. Lots of 2 Weeks Notice and Runaway Bride and anything with Hugh Grant and yeah. But I just find it interesting that you can have just pure romance. At least in like American movies don't get that as much. Now books get more pure romance. But even anything that tends to be at all funny tends to have some sort of romance in it. I think it's just so easy to get humor out of romance. But I think there are so many misunderstandings and just culture clash when you get a man and woman together. And I just think it's such a natural sort of combination where romance shows up to have some sort of comedy. I think in some ways you have to work hard to not have some sort of comedy in romance. I think that's just interesting. It's kind of just a statement on the human condition, I guess.
Okay, so there's an interesting question, Nick.
Yeah.
Given that, do you think that might actually be one part of why guys of a certain age don't get into romantic comedies? because we just see all that awkwardness of like, I don't have feelings. And,
It's possible. I mean, you got to remember, my early films were basically romantic comedies. So that was something I always kind of enjoyed playing with anyways. Because I kind of embraced my awkwardness and decided to channel into humor.
Oh, that's one reason I wanted to go to college was the Taylor trilogy.
That's awesome. What? Wait, explain.
It looked so cool. And you got a girl. For
Nice.
real.
So I guess we should just mention, because we haven't mentioned Taylor Trilogy for a while on the podcast. For those who don't know, that's a series of student films I guess I was responsible for back when we were in college. Basically just mocking, romantic culture at our college and just that in general, yeah.
the first film of the trilogy was on Freshman Love, I think.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And then the second one was DTR, the movie.
Define the relationship.
And then the last one was on Senior Panic.
Yep.
I think we skipped a year in there at some point. I think it was like the junior year is unrepresented in DTR. I always felt like there should be like a spin-off novel about your character's junior year that we never got to see. But funny thing about that, Nick, and we'll move on from this, but this year marks the 20th anniversary of Boy Chase Girl.
I did not hear that.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm happily married for almost 20 years, so I'll say that's worth it.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I was thinking of that at some point during January. I was like, oh yeah, 20 years ago we were filming that because we filmed that during J term, at least most of it. But anyway, complete side tangent.
So the humor part of it, I've always found fascinating. I think when I watch romantic comedies, that's the most fun for me, is just the missteps and the miscommunications and that sort of stuff. I think I've always been drawn to, probably because that's sort of my style anyways. And I can be like, oh yes, that is how it works. Haha.
I can see that. I'd be very curious if someone to do, and I'm sure someone has done some like a dissertation or something about the evolution of rom-coms over the years, comparing the Cary Grant movies of the 50s to the, once we got into the sexual revolution, what did rom-coms look like? Man, it's been a long time. Danielle, do you remember seeing What's Up, Doc?
Yes. With Jimmy Stewart?
No.
Oh, no. With
Barbara Streisand.
Yes.
I don't remember who the guy is. I just remember it's Barbara Streisand, and it's kind of a quirky thing. I think it's romantic. Yeah, because she winds up driving the guy nuts and they get together at the end anyway.
That's a stretch. Okay.
Oh, do you think it's too madcapped and not romantic enough? Okay. I don't remember it well enough.
Now, I did just read very recently, like 2 weeks ago, an article. I don't know where it might have been on Vice or something. My pocket brought up.
Your pocket thing
thing that just gives me random things that people are reading. I'm like, people are reading that?
Your pocket app,
yes. Everything's an app now.
Yeah.
No, but talk about that. There's kind of a resurgence of rom-coms coming out. I don't know what that means, but like they were kind of dead for a while, and that they tend to be focusing more on 30s and 40-year-olds and not 20-year-olds. Now, I more scanned the article, but again, that would be another addition to this kind of history of rom-coms that I think it has a tension, I think, between a certain structure that works and playing into the stereotypes of the time, whatever those might be.
What's going on in the current cultural zeitgeist?
Yeah, like not deeply, but reflecting.
Yeah, I mean, I hesitate to bring up this example, but I think last year there was one of the first majorly marketed gay rom-coms. It bombed because the public is not actually as interested in that as liberal Hollywood would have you think. But that's an example of at least trying to feed into what they think the current zeitgeist is.
Yeah.
I remember you saying this is a while ago now, but I remember you saying Modern Family, which this is more sitcom, not romantic comedy, was also.
But it had a lot of the same elements. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a cultural. This is what a family looks like.
Yeah, and it reflects it very different. Like it has like 3 different types of family in it, and they're all very modern.
Yeah. Oh, well, Danielle, before we probably need to wrap this up soon, but I do want to get to. I know you have watched a lot of Korean and a lot of Asian TV and movies, and a lot of those tend to be more dramatic, at least from what I hear, secondhand from you. But would you say that there's something more distinctive? This is where we can get more broad from just the American version. What do you think is distinctive about Asian romantic comedies?
They have their own cliches and their own timing. But if you talk about, like, if you think that rom-coms have, like, not been as popular, well, let me tell you, have been just as popular for the past 10 years in the Asian drama sphere. They love their humor, their family drama, family humor, self-deprecating. Oh, one thing is really unique about their rom-coms is the male protagonist does a lot of silly things. If in the more lighthearted ones, he will be in just as many awkward situations as the girl. So he's not as suave.
Okay.
But then he also has the suave moments too that are like predictable, because you have to have like certain scenes in almost every drama or certain patterns.
Are you mostly talking about Korean dramas at this point, or because you've seen? I know you. Well, I don't know how much Indian films you've seen.
Bollywood is a whole different ballpark.
Okay.
3 hours later. They're actually usually 3 hours long. I don't know how they make it that long. But
Wow.
yeah, they like really long, really big stories.
Okay.
No, I'm talking more Chinese, Japanese, and Korean.
Okay.
But I like how they, in such a interesting culture, which has a lot of like shame culture, a lot of honor, they just like to laugh at themselves and a lot of secondhand embarrassment situations that I find interesting.
Yeah, I would not. I mean, it makes sense when you say, well, like the first part, but if you were to tell me that an honor-based culture would really enjoy embarrassment-based humor, I'm not sure I would have thought of that, but it makes a certain kind of twisted sense.
Yeah. And I also like it because it's changing a little bit with the times, but it's a lot cleaner usually, like in language and sex and stuff like that. They're usually more clean and family-oriented. I think that's changing a bit. Netflix is picking up more edgy dramas, which is kind of sad because it's one reason I like to watch them, that they were so lighthearted and innocent.
Mm-hmm. There was that pasta series. It was a Korean romantic drama comedy series about opening up an Italian restaurant in Korea.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So am I characterizing that right, Danielle?
Yeah.
Okay, because I remember hearing about there were comedic elements in it, but I also remember either you or our other sister or my other sister, your sister, anyway, Rachel saying that certain Korean dramas would be light for a while, then have the super sudden dark, depressing end. So I don't know. That's why I was like, I don't know if our terms here are getting muddled or not.
Yeah, well, that's where the whole, is it a comedy or is it a drama? Because if it's a historical Korean drama, then you know that someone's going to die or they're never going to be able to get together in the end. Like, it's like clockwork. But if it's a not historical, they end up usually getting married at the very end after like a 2 years apart, and then they get thrown back together and they get married.
Okay. I remember seeing a YouTube video that was poking fun at Korean dramas in the idea that they were like sometimes uber chaste, like they'd be blushing at the very idea of holding hands, kind of thing. Is that still true?
Some definitely it's changing, but you know how like in the old movies where like when they finally kissed, it was like a really, really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And like you almost feel like yourself blushing because they're kissing finally. Well, that's kind of what it is in the Asian dramas, where like the first kiss is a huge deal, and then like you're like, oh my goodness, they kissed 12 episodes into the drama.
See, I think that's kind of cool. It kind of reframes the joy and the intimacy that's supposed to be there versus this sort of modern secular like whatever.
Yeah. And often another element is like their families are included too. So like they often are dealing with, my family appreciate this guy that I am now falling in love with. It's a big deal that they like the whole family has to be happy with the match. And I just like that element.
And that's something else that you don't see, especially in more modern American stuff. It tends to be like they don't even hardly have families outside some best friend. versus like you can get something like Big Fat Greek Wedding, then the family's involved. But that's also not American culture, really. So it's just that's just an interesting sort of window into different ways we view things.
One more question, and then this will be more of a downer question, then we'll wrap it up with a lighter one.
Okay.
Do you think there are any pitfalls in romantic comedy when it comes to like escapism, the setting up unrealistic expectations? I mean, I think you could, well, I'll just put that question out there first. Do you think there are any, is that a danger?
Yes, but the humor usually helps offset that a little bit.
Okay.
When you have just like a straight romance movie, you think like your whole life is going to work out the way that you see it in a Hallmark movie. But when the humor's there, it usually reminds you like life gets messy real quick. And that relationships, like Nick was saying, there's just a lot of ups and downs and unknowns that kind of make it real.
I like that. I think that's a good thought I'd never quite had before. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Because humor can diffuse things and take some of the the swelled ideas out of it.
Yeah, humor, like we've talked about in other times, can put that pinprick in the ego, which we all need.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, given that, you really brought out the upsides to that. But I'll go ahead and ask my upbeat question now then. So final take, what do you think, if we haven't said it already, what do you think is the way that romantic comedies, is it just fluff, or is there something to it that can help us aspire to be better dates, better partners, better humans? Or is that placing it on too high of a pedestal?
I think they show you the beauty of life and the ups and downs, and they make you appreciate your relationships more that you currently have.
All right. Short and sweet. I like it.
Yeah.
I concur. All right. Well, I guess we will wrap up Story School with that. Do you want to stick around for the rest of the podcast, Danielle, or do you have more teaching to do?
Oh, I'll leave it to you guys, you pros. Storytelling is way harder than I ever thought it would be.
Well, thank you for joining us, Danielle. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm glad we got to hear your perspective on all this.
All right. Thank you guys for having me. Continue enjoying your breakfast.
All right. Thanks a bunch.
Yep. Thanks.
And then meanwhile, we'll move on into soundtrack. So my soundtrack today, thinking about romance and comedy in video games, this is actually the first remix that came to mind. It's a remix from Super Mario World, and it's called Super Mario Western Show. This is remixed by Hayden.
Okay.
You recognize the title of this now?
The name, I think so. I don't know if I remember the song exactly. But.
Well, it'll lose a little bit of the humor on the podcast forum because it's all in Japanese, what the lyrics that they have to this. But I would recommend looking this up on either OC Remix, or I think it's probably on YouTube. There's a translation of the lyrics, and it's a funny little song of Mario and Bowser and their competing love for Princess Peach, and Princess Peach is having none of it. Which, having just recently finished the story for Super Mario Odyssey, feels very true to those characters.
Yes. Yes.
So, but it is still zany and fun, and I hope you enjoy.
ートで勝負お一人お忘れじゃないですか1、3条お待たせねごめんKY な空気読めこらちょっついてるとマジ踏みつぶすぞキノコ野郎は一人で結構バカのくせに名前言ってルックスだけはちゅうのけだけどね男はハートで勝負男はハートで勝負男はカーで勝負やっと終わった疲れましたねどうよこれから一杯行くかすいません今日ちょっとあれがこれでこうなんでお盛んだね今度紹介してこれマイク切れてないっすよマジでやっべ
And we're back.
That was fun.
Yeah, I hope you folks enjoyed that wackiness. All right, but now we'll move on to some wackiness of our own, or at least some once upon a scene. All right, so last time we debuted Once Upon a Scene, and to be honest, we are recording this episode only about a week after the last one came out, so I don't know if anyone has correctly guessed the answer to that scene, but that was an excerpt from Robin Hood, the classic Disney version of Robin Hood. I think Janelle had suggested that, and it's a classic movie, which I think one reason why it's so popular among people of a certain age, or at least around here, is that it's probably the most American version of Robin Hood.
Yes.
That there is. Like, you've got a lot of characters who speak in Southern accents.
Yes.
For what's supposed to be England. And Americans, I think, have always loved Robin Hood in general, just because down with the royalty.
Yes. Yes.
But anyway, moving on, we've got a new dialogue clip for you, and here it is.
Well, it's not like I'm enjoying it either, you know. Before you came into my life, I was capable of making all kinds of decisions. Now I can't. I'm addicted. I have to know what you think. What do you think?
George, I think you're the most selfish human being on the planet.
Well, that's just silly. Have you met everyone on the planet?
Goodbye, George.
I don't have a shirt.
All right, there you go. You could probably guess what genre of movie that was from. Or maybe it was a movie, maybe it was something else. Who knows?
Yeah, we could do TV shows.
What genre of story was that
Radio
from?
dramas.
Yeah, you could probably guess what
Commercials.
it is, but which one? That's the question for you. You can email us at Derailed Trains of Thoughts. Wait, is it Derailed Trains? No, it's just Derailed Trains at gmail.com.
Correct.
You can leave us a comment if you wish at derailedtrainsofthought.com under the comments for this episode. Put in code so that other people won't understand what you're saying. But we will somehow. Anyway, moving on from that nonsense, let's go on to some more nonsense with... What if? Okay, Nick, so we talked about what we're going to do for this, but we haven't really talked that much about how we're going to do it. I just realized.
Yes, I feel like we should just come up with a script. There's beats.
Yeah, there's beats. Yeah, so we're going to come up, folks. We're going to make our own romantic comedy here.
So maybe we'll just make start with the traditional kind of the 90s. You got the quirky female protagonist thrown into some sort.
Do we need to say where she works? Because sometimes
I think it's going to matter because she's a working woman of some sort.
Right. Okay, so she's
a dental hygienist.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I don't think I know that one. So I don't think it's been done.
Not that I know of.
Yeah. Okay. So she's a dental hygienist. Is her romantic interest? Is it a patient? Is it her boss, or is it like a rival?
Oh yeah, they've got to start not liking each other.
They have to start not liking each other.
Okay. It could be her boss. That seems
a little iffy.
Yeah. Maybe it's someone who accidentally bit her finger during a surgery.
Or maybe it's even someone from an opposing job. Maybe it's like a candy salesman.
Oh, okay. There you go. It's a person selling the most sugary drink possible to all the...
Oh, yeah, there you go. He's selling,
Swill.
Soda pop. But your Mountain Dew
Your Mountain Dew.
salesman.
It's a fake Mountain Dew. It's
fake Mountain Dew. It's
Cascade mist.
There, Cascade Mist. Mist feels similar to Sierra Mist.
That's
but
true. Okay, Cascade. Dew. No, that way.
no.
The Cascade.
Cascade Bubbles.
Cascade.
Cascade.
Cascade
that's
Spring.
Too much. Cascade Spring. Okay, I could go with that. Cascade Spring.
Have some Cascade Spring. It only has 150 grams of sugar
Okay.
per 8-ounce mini.
Now, okay, so is she an activist dental hygienist?
Yeah, I think she has to be an actress. She's super into it. Like,
Yeah. So they.
she's the sort of that like goes to schools and tries to like scare the children never to eat candy again.
Yeah, there you go. And he's trying to get the contract for the new vending machines in the schools.
Yeah. Okay.
basically.
Okay. This is wonderful.
So maybe they meet at the school at some point. And,
At some like school board meeting.
yeah. Well, or even, maybe they even have their kids go to the same
Oh,
school. Maybe
there you go.
they're like, they're either widows or widower kind of thing. And
Because then you have the kids also have some sort of thing going on.
yeah, and so maybe they meet each other without at first realizing who the other person is. They're just meeting for like a parental function.
Yeah.
And then they somehow at some point they start talking about like, oh, can you believe they're trying to get more pop machines in our school? And the other guy's like, can you believe that someone's trying to not do that? And
Yeah.
they're like, wait a minute.
There you go. And then like maybe it's some sort of function, like they're visiting school and there's some sort of like cafeteria scene and it gets so angry, like there's food being thrown. You gotta have some sort of just over the top reaction to each other. So they end up like covering spaghetti sauce and stuff at the end of this thing. They stomp home and the one she needs a name.
Yeah, well, we haven't named neither one of them.
I know we probably should name them because that matters, doesn't it?
Yeah, okay. Sally?
Sally?
Sally. Amy? I guess I already mentioned When Harry Met Sally, so we've already done a Sally. Amy, trying to think of stereotypical Tiffany.
No, that's for I don't know.
Is that more 80 or is that more teenage?
This feels like more teenage.
A
We need something
teenage name,
yeah. It needs to have it needs to be feminine, but just a smidge of like standoffishness.
Okay. Chloe.
Chloe? Okay, yeah, let's do Chloe. I
Chloe?
love Chloe, yeah.
Okay.
And the guy's name is like Stuart.
Okay, yeah, I can see. I feel like that's been done. So
Yeah.
but I don't know which movie.
I don't know
off
what
the
it
top of my
just
head.
feels like one of those like
Yeah.
kind of proper, but kind of like I don't know if I like it or not names.
What's that Hugh Jackman movie where he's like a time traveling guy?
Oh yeah, he makes the elevator. Isn't his name
Yeah.
Otis? Because that's what shows up on the. They named them Otis for some reason. on
Could
the
be. I
elevator.
remember like Hugh Jackman's like descendant. I was trying to remember if his name was Stewart.
Oh, maybe.
But anyway,
That was an interesting movie. Yeah.
Yeah,
I forgot about
yeah.
that.
yeah, I don't know where I pulled that. What corner I
Good
pulled
work,
that from
Tim.
my brain.
So okay.
So we got Chloe and Stewart.
we've got the first meet cute.
yeah,
that goes wrong.
The end's ugly. Yeah.
Yeah, which should okay.
Okay, so what's the
Now we got to ramp it up.
yeah? Well, there has to be some reason why these two keep crossing paths.
I mean, do we get to the point where there's some sort of like she'd lead some sort of protest or some sort of, and then Stuart's got to be in with the school board and the principal and the administrators. Like they're just buddies. Like she's all trying to say don't do it, and they're just like yeah, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Now we've
all
started
smug
them,
and everything.
we've started them so antagonistically. It's reminded me a lot of You've Got Mail. Are we going to do a sort of thing like that where they have some sort of secret communication and they don't realize who they're talking to, sort of thing, or is that too derivative?
I'm still kind of in my brain. I still have this sort of like Parent Trap vibe where you got the kids in school.
Oh, okay, sure. So maybe the kids really wants to get them together somehow.
Or maybe the kids are getting together, and so that's why maybe the kids are getting together, but the parents want to keep the kids apart.
Oh, okay.
Like there's like a son and a daughter.
Oh, that's different. Okay, so it's not like they want to be siblings. Like the kids are like literally romantically interested in each other themselves.
Maybe or well, that's going to be weird to get.
If
Well, that's
there's
not going to
two
work.
sets of,
That's like
I mean, yeah, it gets a little.
yeah, it gets a little dicey there. Or maybe, or maybe they're like I don't know. I'm pulling all this like student council and administrative stuff in, but maybe they're like trying to get this. Maybe they're like they cause trouble together. Like they're thick as thieves.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So they're just like riling it up.
So it's not so much that they really want to see their parents get together. It's more like what will happen if they keep having the cross.
Or maybe they both think their parents are ridiculous. Like let's say the daughter of the dental hygienist thinks like Mom, can I have some sort of? And she's like, eat your carrots. Okay.
Okay,
And the other
okay,
son's
okay.
like, I just want some broccoli, Dad. And so both of them like, we gotta
find an equilibrium here.
yeah. And maybe they're not mean to set them up, but they keep pushing them.
Pushing and
Yeah.
to try to learn each other's side.
This is a weird story, but I kind of like it.
There's a lot of undercurrents of like different themes going on. Though, like,
It's not quite as fluffy as it should be. So now they got to somehow start connecting,
Yeah.
usually in a unique setting.
yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Maybe they accidentally get locked in the school together at some point.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm trying to figure out. Like they were arguing with each other like after a school board meetings
Yeah.
for so long.
Everything shut down.
Everything
and
shut
locked in.
down, and they didn't even realize that they got locked in somehow.
And somehow they don't have their cell phones, right?
Yeah.
So they're like trying to avoid the motion sensors and all the alarm stuff. And this is an entire ridiculous scene.
I like it. They're trying not to get arrested, but they're also trying to get out.
And maybe like, I don't know, at some point he offers her some sugar treat to keep her blood sugar off. I don't know. There's something wonky with this setup. Well, yeah, so they start connecting and they talk about their children and they're like,
And how difficult it is to be a parent.
yeah.
Yeah. I can see that.
And then maybe there's some sort of dance they have to chaperone for the finale.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Of course it does.
This is a parent rom-com that is apparently all taking place at a school. Like, not exactly the most romantic location I've ever heard of.
It's not. It's not. The theme of the dance is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
There's no romance. How do you do that?
It's very it's a setting. You just have lots of. I don't know.
I feel like Chloe would be very disgruntled at like all this candy. What's going on here? I feel like she's losing the debate.
That she is losing the debate. So yeah, what's got to happen is that? Well, at some point, I guess right before the dance thing, I think Stuart's got to come in with a cavity.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Just so they have another, and she's just grinding in his teeth. All right. Just taking out the pain, taking out the argument.
My drilling is like, you better listen to me.
There's some great set pieces in this movie.
For sure.
The rest of it doesn't make a lick of sense, but
I mean, when my dad was a dentist, he had people often telling him, like, why don't dentists advocate people eating candy more? It seems like that'd be a great boon for revenue here when people go out and get cavities. So maybe that's kind of the resolution of this whole thing. She kind of relents. Is like, you know what? Okay, it is good for business. I mean, I am a dental hygienist, so if you want to mess up your teeth, all right, come to me.
well, I feel like it should be balanced. He should be like, yeah, we're over the top.
Yeah.
And she's like, you know what? There is some fun because normally it seems like often the female protagonist has to loosen up somehow. They're too tight.
Uh-huh.
They got to loosen up. So she's like,
That does
okay,
happen,
let's have some punch.
Sure, sure. Not realizing it's been spiked with a lot of
of Cascade Spring.
yeah, exactly.
All right.
But yes, he's also learned his lesson and is dialing back because of his own cavity problems.
And he just realized that, yeah, there's more to life than the instantaneous hit. Maybe his whole life's just sort of like the next big.
So it's not just the sugar; it's the caffeine rush that he's.
It's just
addicted to.
like he's always that, and like she's just don't do anything outside the rhythm, the routine. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I can see that. So
Opposites attract sort of thing.
yeah, very much so. So what's the name of this?
Yeah, I was
this-
just trying to think
this
of a
movie?
good pun to go with this.
Give me some sugar.
Sugar Daddy. So our last episode was all about food. Apparently, we can't get away from it this episode. We talked about a pasta sitcom and
And a sugary sweet romance.
Yep.
I'm trying to figure out
candy hearts.
Candy hearts. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to get teeth in there.
Teeth. Yeah.
Rotten teeth.
Rotten teeth. Chew on this.
Sweet enamel.
Wow. So Hollywood, just call us up. We'll write this up for you.
Yeah, there you go.
It's mint. All right, should we try another one of these?
Yeah, we'll keep it a little shorter.
Okay.
Here.
Okay. I gave this up. Do we still do this whole 90s version? Or do we try a different style?
Let's try something different.
Yes.
What about a TV show?
Okay.
I mean, the trick with it, I feel like any ongoing story that's a romantic comedy is how long do you
keep
hold
it
that?
going. Yeah, hold the tension.
Hold the tension. Yeah.
Well, there was one show that Zach always used to watch. What was it? He was the lawyer who worked at a bowling alley.
Okay, that's an interesting setup.
And
I have no idea.
what was it called? It was pretty good, but there was the whole, he was in love with he had moved back, he was in love with this girl, and there was constant tension.
How long ago was it?
Oh, probably, I'm going to say late 90s, early 2000 now.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
I could be wrong. My dating is horrible, but no pun intended.
Man, I mean, that's a great random or unique setup, I guess.
Yeah. So let's make the guy because for the TV show, it seems like a lot of times it's the guy who's like in love with the
It does
girl.
happen. It seems like in Castle, he was definitely interested in her before she was interested in him.
I mean, The Office, Jim was interested in Pam.
Oh, was he?
I think so from my memory. Sorry, everyone who watches The Office 10 times a year.
Me, I've never finished a single season. Early on, it's like the awkward humor is just too much. Like, this is not really a show for me.
Season 1 is so painful. It gets better after that. Season 1 is too painful.
Yeah.
You can skip that.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Also, at this point, I think I'm very much in this camp of like, this is too popular. I'm not gonna watch.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna take my time watch. I'll just look at the memes.
Okay, so let's what kind of off-kilter guy could we have? What's a good job?
For some reason, the first occupation that came to mind is lumberjack.
Lumberjack. Okay.
So
lumberjack.
So are we? Maybe we have like, what if there's this really burly, awkward lumberjack that doesn't know how to talk with women?
So he's just very silent. He's like Massimo from Luca. That's
Sure. Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
I haven't seen Luca yet.
I know I need to.
Oh wow, Tim, I can't talk to you anymore. Okay, so he's burly lumberjack. Now here's the thing: what makes him endearing, though? He's got to kind of have that like puppy dog endearingness too.
Yeah. I feel like maybe he's
At least if it's gonna be comedy. If you're gonna just be pure romance, he's burly. He doesn't talk much, and like takes care of animals, and then you're set.
Yeah.
But there's not quite the humor there.
Yeah, you're right. Because my initial thought is like, there's no reason why this guy wouldn't be. Because I was thinking like he has to have a hard time finding romance somehow. But a big burly sweetheart, that's not going to be too hard. So maybe
He needs two jobs. Maybe a lumberjack and something else. Sometimes they have the weird.
Oh yeah, sure.
And band director,
Like a bluegrass kind of band, or what do they say?
like high school marching band.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's kind of
Like it's his part-time job. I don't know.
Why are we going back to the school?
I don't know. I'm a teacher now. That's all I can think of. Okay, let's go. Get out of the school. Get out of the school. Okay.
Well, maybe he's a hippie lumberjack. Maybe he works at a coffee shop.
Okay. Okay.
mean-
Coffee shops are pretty common.
I mean, I feel like we're going in a very Hallmark direction here.
That's true. How do we keep from being too I mean, not as bad, but
Yeah.
or how about lumberjack and
Lumberjack detective?
lumberjack? Maybe let's do lumberjack detective.
Like, is a very small town up in the boonies of Montana or something, or
Yeah.
Oregon.
Yeah.
And so it's a small town, but they have this one detective guy, and he's kind of rough around the edges, tends to be a little bit no nonsense because he has to be as a detective.
But like a lot of detectives, they have a little quirk. They have a little like Columbo's kind of strange,
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes a little strange. You got this little offness. So what is his sort of? I mean, does he have no filter? And he just says stuff. I mean, something that quirk would be both the thing that keeps him from connecting and what makes him lovable simultaneously.
Sure. Yeah, I feel like maybe he's a little socially distant, maybe because he spends so much time he has spent so much time in the woods or like doing paperwork that people just kind of assume that he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he
Is it sort of thing like he'll intrude in a conversation and like completely misread it? Like he'll just start talking, like everyone's talking about this, and he'll just like kill the vibe wherever he goes in, but like not purposely. He just doesn't read
that could be
the room at all.
like maybe because he's so like a couple steps ahead on his own mental track.
Yeah.
That he'll ask a question that no one's asking yet, and they'll be like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. Okay.
But it's something that's vitally important to his understanding of the.
But he's just
the
always
case.
off from whatever everyone else in their like small town gossipy world, and he's just
Yeah, he's like the strong silent monk.
okay.
If you ever you know the show.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit. Have you seen the sheriff in Wyoming? That show. What's that called?
I'm not sure.
No, it's called.
Is it like an AMC show or like a cable?
It probably was. Wait.
Longmire?
Longmire. Yeah. Have you
Okay.
seen Longmire?
I might have seen an episode or two.
It's
of
not so much a comedy, but he had that sort of gruff sort of.
Yeah.
But you can push it a little farther so it's more funny.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it'd be you'd want to have someone writing it who really understood that kind of character.
Yeah.
That kind of like rural, like he's lacking some sort of social graces, but he's no dummy.
He's no dummy.
Yeah.
It's almost like his brain works too fast in some ways and too slow in others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
So what sort of woman would be
His catch.
Yeah, and maybe he's not actually the driving force in this romance. Maybe she's intrigued by him.
That's true. Or
And there's some intrigue.
maybe they're both ways, but both don't catch it.
Yeah, or they don't like they'll have some chemistry, but then one kind of doesn't. They don't realize.
And obviously,
what's going
she's got to
on.
be involved in with some other guy somehow,
probably.
or if not, or something's distracting her.
Yeah. So who is she then?
Because these things are always like where you work. Because it's got to be a place that he'll end up. And now it's a small town, but a place he'll end up passing her a lot.
Yeah, crossing paths.
I mean, you could do the traditional like she's a police officer, so they cross a lot, but it's a little boring.
Yeah, a little simple.
She owns the only grocery store in town.
Oh, that could work. Yeah, because I wasn't liking my first things. I wasn't liking that much like a barkeep or a
Which has been-
reporter. Those have been done all over the
Yeah.
place. But the owner of a local grocery store, she probably hears a lot of
People are always in and
scuttlebutt.
out. It's sort of like the bar, but it's not because
it's more homey. Yeah,
yeah.
interesting. So she's the owner then, right?
Yeah, and I think you could have some funny scenes and like because maybe she runs a lot of it herself. I mean, you could play this whole thing like it's like a one-man show sort of thing. So like she's in the the meat and deli section cutting something up when he comes one time, and another time she's packing, another time she's like just throwing out old. You could just make it this ongoing.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like it. At the very least, we have two colorful characters,
and you would have to get a lot more of them. Though those two would get you going, and then you'd have to have your probably an actual police officer who's just like dumb as rocks.
yeah.
So that he's always like
One step ahead of
one
him.
step ahead of him.
Yeah.
Or
I
they
like
hate
it.
each other or something like that.
Or,
Not hate, but like
but
there's kind of a grudge from the police officer because he's like
Sure,
he
sure.
knows he's kind of behind, but
yeah. He kind of begrudging, like, yeah, he I don't
Did it
know.
again.
I don't know how he did that. Yep.
okay, cool.
Okay, I can go with that.
That'll work.
So there's some ideas for you, Hollywood, as usual. Hope you folks enjoyed some of those. And
Yes.
if you would like to write them, they're free of charge.
Yes.
It would be fascinating to hear someone like really develop one of our crazy what if ideas a little more deeply.
We'll
sometime.
just have to make an audio drama of the lumberjack detective.
Sure. One of these days.
Yeah, we need a name like getting to the root of the problem, or I don't know,
He's not a gardener.
branch out. I don't know. Branching out. Axe to grind. These are the name of the episodes. Like
yeah.
episode 1, an axe to grind.
Yeah.
Episode
pretty,
2,
Pretty much.
pruning the bush. I don't know.
I was trying to come up with if there's any kind of pun I can use timber with, but it just occurred to me, like, why did they yell timber? Like because it's a tree, timber.
Like
leaves.
timber's coming down.
Timbers, like, why not just yell tree?
Didn't it sound as cool?
I guess. Anyway, that's a
Okay.
complete side tangent.
Anyways, thank you all for putting up with our what if.
And hope you enjoyed. Remember, if you would like to listen to more of our what ifs, if you visit our website, derailedtrainsofthought.com, there's a nice little tab on the top of the Derailed Trains page. All of our podcasts are there, of course. Derailed Trains of Thoughts, The Weekly Hijack, Let's Finally Watch This. But if you go to the Derailed Trains of Thought page, there's a tab near the top that lists all of our segments. If you want to hear more crazy what ifs, you can just click there.
And there's some crazy what ifs.
That's right. It'll bring up all the episodes that have what ifs in them. So check that out. Also, if they want to follow us on social media, how can they do that, Nick?
You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Facebook. You can email us at derailedtrains@gmail.com.
Our Twitter handle is derailed_trains.
Correct.
All right.
You can go to TikTok and get off it right away. But why are you in TikTok?
That's enough said. All right, Nick, do you have a soundtrack for us? That's a non-endorsement of TikTok.
Yeah, so for no good reason, as soon as I remember doing rom-com, we only really tackled romance once, way back, of any sort. I just remembered that I used to love this song called Love Hurts. I'm like, have we done this one? We have not. So this is from Sonic the Hedgehog. It is a remix called Love Hurts. It's remixed by DJ Pretzel, and it's just funky and fun.
DJ Pretzel, one of the founders of OC Remix.
And, romantic comedies, at some point, the love hurts, and then they get over it. They laugh. But
yeah,
it's
this
just a fun song.
It is a very groovy song. This is a classic.
It is a classic.
Fun fact, Nick, or maybe not so fun. I noticed looking at this on the website, this remix was posted in 2002, meaning that there's been more time since this remix is posted to now than there was in between when the original Sonic came out and this remix came out. Because Sonic the
Hedgehog, pointing these things out. Why do you keep doing this?
Sonic the Hedgehog came out in 1991. The game was 10 years old when this remix came out. Now this remix is 20 years old.
Time just keeps moving for some reason.
Yeah, it does. It's a very weird thing. But anyway.
All right. Well, let's get out here and let's go have a good meal.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very noisy atmosphere here, but I'm sure they have good food. Hopefully it's not all swimming in mayonnaise.
Well, we'll have to see.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, folks, for listening. Until next time, this is Tim.
This is Nick.
Bye-bye.